session agenda.
Have a motion.
Second.
All for? All voting for.
Okay. We have Chad Hall from Carter K Baptist with us tonight to lead us in our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, this is the day that you have made, God, and we should rejoice and be glad in it, Lord. Father, even though these are some very trying, troublesome times, God, we still can rejoice because we know who you are. God, you tell us in your word to cast our cares upon you because you care for us, Lord. Tonight, this school board is going to be casting their cares, God. Father, they're going to be asking for wisdom, understanding. And God, I pray for each one of them, God, that you would give it to them immeasurably, Lord. Father, I know every person in this room tonight has a need, God. And Lord, I'm thankful that you are a big God, that we can bring all of our needs to you, Lord. Father, I pray for a hedge of protection to be around each and every school in Gilmer County, God. Each and every home, Lord. And God, I just pray that you would show yourself strong on our behalf. Lord, as this board conducts this meeting tonight, God, I pray, Father, that everything would just be done peacefully, Lord. And I pray, God, everything would be done in such a manner it would glorify you and draw people to you, Lord. And God, I pray this in the name that is above every name. That name is Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If you'll stand and join me in the pledge for our flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have our presentations and recognitions, and our Assistant Superintendent, Kim Cable, will make those presentations.
First one of 2021.
Yay.
Exciting. Okay, we have two groups today that we are going to recognize. Our first group is from Clear Creek Middle School. If our principal, Nicole Pike, will come up, please. She's going to announce the runner-up and the winner from our county spelling bee.
So our runner-up is 7th grader, Mr. Cash Williams. And our winner for the Gilmer County Spelling Bee is 8th grader Trace Morgan. Trace, do you remember what your winning word was?
I told you they were going to ask you that.
Can't remember? That's okay. Congratulations.
I told you they were going to ask you.
I
love it.
Our football players who were on the all-region football team for seven AAA. So if Ms. Foley and Mr. Johnson, if you guys will come up, please, and
Thank you all for the opportunity. We'll be here to recognize these fine young men. All right, first off, we got Dawson Stevens, first team offense. Next up, we have Tyler Gatlin, first team defense. Spencer Smith, first team defense. Seth Darling, special teams. Kobe Stonecipher, second team offense. Will Geiger, second team offense. Herschel DeFore, second team offense. Ashton White, second team defense. Kyle Allison, second team defense. And Braden Jenkins, second team defense.
All right, guys, let's get a picture. Look at me. You gonna open them up? Everybody open them up. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it? Okay. Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Good job, boys.
Congratulations.
Hey, that skips a generation. Yeah. Get there. All right, ready to roll?
Getting there. Getting there.
Don't matter.
Don't worry about that. Yes,
Let me know.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our consent items. They're listed for the board's consideration at our regular monthly meeting on Thursday. Subject to the wishes of the board, items to be added or removed from the consent agenda prior to that meeting. On the consent agenda are the minutes from our December 2nd board training, our December 14th work and executive session, our December 17th regular session, and also some out-of-state or overnight field trips. So that brings us to our superintendent's report. We always start with academic achievement. And as you know, I've asked each school in our district to present something they wish to highlight to support academic achievement at a board meeting once each year. Tonight we have our Gilmer High School administrative team to share with you, led by Principal Carla Foley.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you guys this evening about our GHS wraparound program. I've invited my assistant principal, the AD of curriculum, and our department chair for our counseling department, Daniel Marshall. They're going to help me with my presentation tonight. So about 3 years ago, I was introduced to Lee Colburn, who at the time was the principal at Marietta High School. And she had started a program at Marietta looking at wraparound services and started a student success center, a place where students could have different needs that might be met either around academic or social emotional needs or family needs. It was anything that was a barrier to students in regard to their graduating from high school. And so she had started this program about 3 years prior, and I had an opportunity to go to Marietta and meet her and take a tour of the center and see some of the things that she had in place down there. And I was really impressed by what they were doing. And so we have tried over the last 3 years to kind of reproduce that here at Gilmer High School. And we consult with us. I'm fortunate that she lives in LJ, and but I only have to pay her in eggs and chocolate. The other schools around the nation are consulting with her and creating these wraparound centers or services for students. So we can go to the next slide. The first thing, the foundation, is that psychologist Abraham Maslow in 1943 identified different needs that people have in order to self-actualization, or actually to learn and be who they want to be. And the very basic of those needs are the physiological needs. And then we have safety needs around personal security, and then friendships and personal relationships with others, and then lifting at self-esteem. And then once those needs are met, people can actually learn and grow and become who they're supposed to become. So without those basic needs being met, it's very difficult for our students to learn and to have high academic achievement. So that's why this all started, was because we were seeing deficits in our student achievement, and we wanted to talk with kids and find out what are those barriers that are preventing you from graduating, that are preventing you from meeting those high academic expectations. So one of the things that we focus on is student voice. And so for the last 3 years, we have given a student survey to students in grades 10 through 12 that the students actually came up with. They have created the questions based on what their needs might be, either academic, behavior, social, emotional, or family supports. This past year, we gave the survey in November, and we had 435 students take the survey. So this data that we're going to look at this evening is based on the results of those 435 students.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. So we're going to start with academic needs. Here are the top 5 academic needs that the survey showed us. So college application and scholarship assistance, 330 students, college selection assistance, access to jobs and apprenticeships, SAT, ACT test prep, and career shadowing. So how are we meeting those needs, and what's in place? We have college seminars that we present to juniors and seniors every single year. We go from the beginning application process all the way through acceptance. So we're doing those. Each counselor has a caseload divided by last name. We're meeting individually with every junior and senior to find out their individual plan every single year. We have a scholarship page that has hundreds of scholarships on it that's updated daily. One thing we started this year is a digital bulletin board. What we found was we were getting multiple emails from colleges with not a really good way to get those to students. So we created a digital bulletin board so that we can share that information. FAFSA assistance, we have Rebecca Hammond and Marcus Hilliard. Marcus is from the Georgia Student Finance Commission. He comes and helps our students with applying for the FAFSA each year, which is wonderful. This year, this semester, we're giving the SAT again in March. And what we're doing is we're requiring students to have SAT prep, because what we found is that scores weren't as where we wanted them to be. So we're going to require them to have an SAT prep course with Dr. Ward in the building. Apply to College Week each year is in November. It's a week where we invite local colleges, technical schools, and universities to come in and apply for free with our students. And that happens every single year in November during the first week. Our SWD students have transition plans, so in their IEP meetings annually, they go through and advocate for their transition plan, what's going to come, and set goals for after their time in high school. Upper Bound program and Reach Scholars, both of those are for first generation students that want to go to college. Upper Bound is, we have, it's a program through the University of North Georgia, and they're in our building, and they work with our students, and it's wonderful. They take trips and help them with the college application process as well. Reach, is Ms. Mitchell has presented on before, and they get some serious money to go to school.
And it's board supported as well.
Yes. And then vocational rehab is part of our SWD transition plan, which helps those students get to college. And then on the next slide, you'll see our Upper Bound program, some of the trips they have attended.
All right, so next on the survey, you're going to see the life skill needs. So this is split into two columns. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the school year 1920, and on the right, your school year 2021. And the difference is in the results of these surveys. So we were looking and we're like, why would driver's ed jump to number one? Why are we all of a sudden seeing personal safety? Why are we seeing job readiness or these healthy relationships? And then obviously we stopped and thought, well, we had a pandemic. These kids were stuck at home. Some of them not having personal safety, didn't feel safe in their own homes. They didn't feel healthy in their relationships. And maybe they just needed to drive and get away from that home. I don't know. So driver's ed was number one on the list. We know that's a whole different can of worms as far as financial and accountability, liability, I should say. So, but this was what we got for our life skill needs. So on the next one, how are we supporting those this year? Okay. So we have Adulting Day, which is mentioned a couple of times in here, where we have people from all over the community come and teach classes. Some of those classes have to do with resume writing, job readiness, financial planning, and even healthy relationships. Our advisement lessons are pushed out once a week through our guidance department. Those have to do with all sorts of social, emotional, they have a bunch of stuff. You could probably tell me a million that you do, but from healthy relationships all the way to anger management, we go through all of it. So every senior is required to do the capstone in order to walk at graduation. So through the capstone, they're all required to write a resume and to research jobs, potential jobs that they would want to have and what the qualifications for those jobs are. We have been working with our local pregnancy center. What we have found this year, maybe due to the pandemic, is that we have a really high rate of teen pregnancies. One, I would say in the 5 years I've been there, those 5 years added together is how many pregnant teens we have this year alone. So the pregnancy center is coming in and meeting with those teen moms once a week. A lot of them don't have females at home that can teach them how to properly care for themselves, much less a baby. So they're helping them with just basic skills that they need to help. So, and then we have High School High Tech. We partner with them. They're kind of associated with Voc Rehab. They help our students with disabilities. They do resume writing, interview. They help with interviews. How should you act? How should you dress? What should you say? So we have them coming in to help those students as well. And then the next couple slides, we have some pictures. This is our High School High Tech group. So a group of our students with disabilities that were working on interview skills. So someone came in from Atlanta to work with them on proper interview skills. And then the next couple slides are just Adulting Day, some basic life skills that they learned.
So the next area of our survey focuses on social emotional needs, and these are the top 5 areas that students said they could use resources or support with. Just mental health in general, anxiety, self-esteem, depression, and anger management. For the other areas that students said that some resource or some support would be helpful. And lucky for us, we partner with Highland Rivers. They're actually in our school 2 days a week, providing individual counseling for students as well as some small group counseling during the lunch block. And they do just a basic general mental health session where students, they just show up if they want to. They're not assigned to be there or anything, but just a place where kids can go and talk to a licensed therapist if they need help with any of those areas. And again, like Ms. Boyd was saying, through our advisement lessons, we touch on some of those social emotional areas that are high needs. And then a couple of years ago, we received a grant through Highland Rivers to bring in Sources of Strength, which is a national program for suicide prevention, and it allows students to look at their 8 different strengths that they've identified, that if people can tap into those, can help them get through difficult times. So we do different activities throughout the year with Sources of Strength and helping students see what kind of strengths they have and how to maximize their access to those strengths that are within them.
So here are our top 5 family needs, starting with financial education at the top. So go to the next slide. Here are how we're putting those in place. So FAFSA night, again, Marcus Hilliard comes from the state and helps our students apply for the FAFSA. Adulting Day, which Ms. Boyette mentioned earlier. Adulting Day is really helpful because not only does it allow students to see careers that they may not have known existed in front of them, but it also helps with things like insurance education, job fairs that were on the top of the list. So that's really, really helpful. And then finally, we have work-based learning, which is with Ms. McKellar Rudder, and we're fortunate to have a community that supports our students and works so closely with us to provide those opportunities for our kids.
All right, so part of the survey was directed directly to our Hispanic students. So not just our English as a second language students, any of our Hispanic students. They took this part of the survey, what were their needs coming from a Hispanic community. So their top 4 were their English classes for their parents. They were very concerned about that. Being able to connect with businesses that had Spanish-speaking staff so that they could possibly go somewhere and get a job. They were interested in having subject instruction with a Spanish-speaking teacher, and then of course translation services. So how we're meeting those needs right now, we have English classes provided to parents through a local church. So a local church here has those English lessons for parents. We make sure that they know that. We encourage that. We have math classes that are currently offered to our ESOL students with a teacher that speaks Spanish. So she does not solely speak Spanish because we know the importance of them learning English, but she's there with that barrier, that language barrier. She can help them to continue to learn math even though they're struggling with the language. We have an on-site translator, Miss Maria, which we cannot thank enough, but it's very important. We have about 30% of our population is Hispanic, and so when we need to get a hold of parents, when we have an emergency, when we have IEP meetings and parent conferences, to have someone right there on staff that can quickly call home is amazing. So, and she really has acted like a liaison. I know when she knows a job opportunity, she's connected with so many parents through the school that she can say, hey, so-and-so is looking for a job, and she can act as that resource too. We have an ESOL 1 and ESOL 2 and a communication skills class to help our students learn the English language better as well. So English 1 and 2 count as some of their actual English classes. They go towards credits towards graduation, and communication skills is a bonus class for those students to continue learning the English language. And then every year our students go to the Latino Youth Conference. This year it was virtually, so our attendance wasn't that great, but every year we get them on a bus and they go there and they learn all kinds of stuff about how to advocate for themselves, what colleges are out there, all kinds of stuff for them and for their parents. So that's some stuff we're doing for our Hispanic students.
So some additional supports we have in place that don't really fit into any of these other categories. We started a food pantry in a closed closet a few years ago. It was in a little tiny office in our main office, and this year we were able to move it into a classroom that wasn't being used. And the Gilmer Chamber came out and they did a grand reopening for us of our food pantry in our closed closet. And so it's a much bigger space where we've got a more variety of food for students as well as clothes. Through our increase in number of teen moms, we started a little section of baby food and baby clothes and things like that that our students need access to for those students who are trying to continue to come to school as well as be parents. Daniel has presented to you guys recently about our mentor program that's come out of this need for our wraparound services. And the CBI is our community-based instruction, where Ms. Justin Lee takes our students out into, some of our special needs students out in the community where they're learning how to work and do jobs at hotels and restaurants and at the farm and do different things so that they can have a productive life when they graduate from high school and earn an income. Needs that we still have that we are hoping to focus on this year and moving into next year. We want to continue our partnership with CORE. They help support our mentor program, but we know that job shadowing is an area that students have recognized as a need, and so we'd like to work with them to help us get out into some of the jobs in the community and allow our students to shadow in areas that they're interested in working. We want to continue with high school, high tech, and have a job fair with them. Something that we came very close to getting information about last year, but then had to shut down because of COVID, was a discussion around a community health clinic within the school. That's been kind of a big push in some schools recently with wraparound services and being able to have that community health clinic right there. So if a student is sick, has a sore throat, they can go right down, get a strep test. If it's not strep, here's an antibiotic, here's some medicine, and get them right back into school instead of them staying out 3, 4, 5 days waiting to get an appointment with a doctor. which we know sometimes happens with some of our students. And we also want to increase the number of our students who are participating in those small groups with Highland Rivers. These are some of our community partnerships. This could not happen without this partnership between CORE. Walmart has been incredible providing food for us at different times throughout the year. Gilmer County Sheriff's Office brought food this year for Christmas dinner. LJ Police Department has also been instrumental in providing meals for our students. Ace Hardware donated a deep freezer and a refrigerator freezer to the food pantry so that we could have not just pre-prepared foods, but we could also provide some fresh food and things for our students. As we mentioned, we partner with Highland Rivers and High School High Tech. And I left off the screen, it's made us super important. The Rotary provided a $4,000 grant for us this year that we do not want to forget, and that has been extremely helpful in providing food into our food pantry. And we also want to recognize the Gilmer Chamber has also been important. And so we're very fortunate to have these different community partnerships and these different groups that are helping with us. And our last picture is these are our Chick-fil-A leadership kids. Right before Thanksgiving, they went to Walmart and we went shopping and bought a bunch of food for the food pantry. And so we have a picture of those students who, so not only are these other community groups helping, but some of our clubs at the high school are also helping to support our food pantry. Questions?
I have a question real quickly, is the pregnancy center helping out, that's a big help. Now, what can we do as a board to help with the education or, is there something we can do as a board to help curb that trend, I guess,
Like Ms. Boyette said, in my time as principal, we had, we averaged 1 or 2 students a year who made, I think we've gone years where I had 8 students that were pregnant, and this year we're at 6 that we know of right now, and who have had babies or are very close. And we think part of that really was that pandemic and not being in school. Not being in school with that structure, and I think that's the biggest, let's stay our kids in school. Let's stay open, let's stay in school, and then we have within our health classes, there are some new laws around some different curriculum that needs to be covered, and so we're hoping through the new curriculum that we're going to be implementing in health that will also help get that.
After our teen pregnancy, like that, be more bit.
It's been down.
One time we used to be real high.
Yeah.
Then in York, I thought we had to get that down, now it's back.
Yeah, just this year are we seeing that increase, because it really has been down. It's not been something that we really had to focus on. But when we came back in August, it was like, oh, wait, this one's having a baby now. And we were like, okay, we weren't ready for that. And thankfully the pregnancy center jumped right in, and they have such great resources for students. So, and I like their instruction, if you guys are familiar with their structure, but the students have to attend classes, and then for every class they attend, they get something. So like the first class, they might get diapers and formula, and the second class, they might get a car seat, and the third class, they might get, a crib. And so the more classes that they attend, the more things that they might need they're being provided with. So it's a really good structure in educating them on how to be parents as well as giving them some of the things they need.
Check over SAT.
Yes.
Did we get in last year, or did we just get?
We
trying to get in early this year, or?
We did one school day in October, and we were supposed to do another school day, and then SAT canceled all of their tests until, I think they did their first test in August, August date, so they had canceled from March until August. And so we did one day in October, we have another day scheduled for March 24th.
And the college has waived it for students planning to go to college.
So yeah, for this year, they waived.
Earlier this year, or?
It's set by the college board of when we can give the test, so March 24th is the next day they allow it to be given at any school. Thank you.
Okay, the next section of our strategic plan focuses on parent and community engagement. We have a couple of items there. The first one is our cannery report. And we have our young farmer teacher, Mr. Mike Bushy, with us tonight to share your annual cannery report and some apple butter at each of your spots.
Yes, I hope you enjoy the apple butters. We were made by Gilmer County Young Farmers, and it's the original John Barnes recipe. Everybody knows Mr. Barnes, so it's tested over many, many years, and we would never mess with it. The cannery report, and I got to thank Lindy Patterson, she did an amazing job with my pictures and stuff like that, making a report. Before I get the numbers real quick, and I won't take long on this, but I got to thank the board and Dr. Downs for jumping right in right from the beginning and supporting us, because there's several canneries that didn't open this year. When March and April is kind of when we're planning our season, and a lot of places didn't open, but y'all worked with us. And the Department of Ag, we came up with a little different structure in that we had to do it by appointment, which has never been done, and the cannery's been around since the late 30s, so it was something different. And also, we encourage people to wear masks because our population, the cannery, probably 60 to 70% is folks that are over 65 years of age. So we encouraged, but and most folks that felt they needed to wear them, wore them, and by doing the appointments, we never had 40 people in there at one time. We had like 4 different sections where we had individual families working at it. And in the beginning, I really thought it was going to diminish our numbers, but honestly, I think we were up 1,600 units from last year, which I think showed a lot of foresight from the board and Dr. Downs and having that service available to people, because it really got utilized this year. And I want to thank you for that. Some of the pictures, you'll see some folks with masks on. We actually, I think, yeah, Trina Penland's family's in there. I want to make sure I got that one in there. BJ Reese, John and Rachel did a bunch of apple pie filling, which we've never done before. And we were able to help them out getting a lot of that stuff as the season kind of ran down for them. We helped them. They said that what we did in one day would take them 5 or 6 weeks. So it was something that was really beneficial for them on a community aspect. So we yeah, that's Chris Mullen's daughter. And Deborah had her tuned in real quick. We had a really great season. We were open more just to accommodate the number of people and having to do appointments per the Department of Agriculture and the regulations they wanted us to follow. But this is kind of the report what we ended up with. And one thing we seem to be turning more into a regional cannery than just a Gilmer County cannery anymore. With Pickens County closing their cannery, Blue Ridge slowing up on the number of days they're open. Murray County's only open a couple weeks through the whole summer. And with us being available from the end of June, up until when we close for Christmas break, we've really drawn a lot of customers in from Carroll County. We have a group of Mennonites that come from South Carolina every year, do 30 or 40 bushels of apples. And then there's a lot of groups that just kind of schedule, and then all their family and friends kind of get together and come up and kind of make a day of it. So it's really changed, and we've been able to really keep the numbers up, which is something that we always want to be able to do. So the number of days operated in the summer was 48. Operated all year was 140. Got this in front of me. Number of units canned, and when I say a unit, that's either a half pint, a pint, a quart, a half gallon. And we were up to 18,422. So that's that's a pretty good number. Number of units prepared for freezing, and that's mostly peas. And we have a sheller that we kind of, and some folks do tomatoes that way, but you know, it's primarily peas are what we do as far as getting ready for freezing and corn. Number of bushels shelled, well, that's what peas are. Percentage of processed products that are homegrown, 89%, but that number is kind of, because a lot of folks are buying from Andy Futch or the Penlands or John Reese or a lot of the local markets that are still kind of homegrown in our county, but people are buying from them, bringing it in and processing it. Total number of visits, 1,992, and number of students, and that's mostly making applesauce. We try to give them all an experience in there. You know, I think every kid needs to see canning. They need to see food preservation, whether they ever do it again or not. But I think it's a cool thing that they all at least will see at some point in our ag program. And that's the cannery report. If anybody has any questions or
Questions?
Yep.
Do you know how many canneries are still open in Georgia?
22.
Just 20?
And we got the nicest of the.
Yeah, by far. And we, you know, when the canneries were set up between the Great Depression and World War II as a community service. And at that time, nearly every county in the state of Georgia had one. So that's what it's dwindled down to. We're one of the last few.
Well, it makes me start getting busier.
Well, that's good. It's, you know, my job, I'm supposed to be in the community and working with people, and there's no better way when they come right to me. So I don't have a problem with that. And we have Larry Young. It's pretty much our full-time employee out there, and he does an amazing job. The people love him. He handles all the scheduling. You know, he's a big asset that we have out there as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Mountain Education Charter High School lease agreement. Gilmer County School System has partnered with Mountain Ed for many years now, with them sharing or leasing space from Gilmer County Schools. Mountain Education is a state charter high school for students who are not successful in the traditional high school and wish to earn their diploma in the evening. Last school year, we moved their location from the mobile buildings behind Clear Creek Elementary to the Larry Walker Education Center. And we made some changes to the technology portion of the contract. You have the contract in your packets. We went back and forth on this a little bit for revisions to make sure that it truly captures what's going on in the area of technology for them and our responsibilities and theirs as basically our renter and partner. So you have that for your review, and on Thursday I'll recommend that our board approve their contract for this year.
So exactly
What changed? Okay, I'm gonna think through how to put this. They had in the past expected the technology department of their partner school to fully support their technology needs. And that meant that our technology department would get phone calls at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. Our technology department works a full 40-hour week for us, and they weren't interested in working for Mountain Ed at night, even with an offer that Mountain Ed offered to pay. They said, no, this is my job, I have a family, not interested. And so when we moved, we took that opportunity to suggest that they actually get their own dedicated internet line with ETC, so that then when something happened at 8 o'clock at night, then they weren't calling our staff to fix it for them. And so when I got the lease back, it had everything in it just like before, saying that we were responsible for that need. They do bill it. It's billed through us. Mountain Education Charter High School sends us a reimbursement for that fee. So it's our building, ETC's line running into the Larry Walker Center is billed to us and then we bill Outnet. So it doesn't change. Yeah, there are a couple of spelling errors and stuff too that we caught that got fixed as well. I just wanted it to truly capture what we're doing and not just be the canned agreement that they have with other systems. Okay. The next area of our strategic plan is higher performing culture and workforce. And there's two items under that. First, we have personnel that we'll discuss our general monthly personnel and executive session. But also, the second item there is administrative renewal. We're recommending our administrators for renewal this month so that they can recommend their certified staff for renewal next month. And this allows us time to renew staff members earlier and begin to fill our needs with quality staff before the candidate pool shrinks as the year moves forward.
As to the administrator, do they have a Teaks and Leaks evaluation sort of like teachers do?
They do. It's called Leaks is the Leader Keys evaluation system. So my responsibility is evaluating the principals. The principals in turn do the Leader Keys evaluation system with their assistants. Then I use a modified form because there's not a true form coming from the state for like district level positions. So we still use Leader Keys. We just modified a little bit to fit the different positions that are here at the district office. I will say though that the Teaks and Leaks process has changed a little bit this year. It's much less structured, less requirements from the state, but we as a system, we're one of the few systems that started school in August and haven't closed or been virtual. And so we have been following groups like a normal year.
So on that leadership evaluation, does that deal with student achievement at each different
It
level?
has, yes, it has a portion. There are 10 standards I know you're familiar with from the teacher keys. There are 8 standards for leaders. And yes, academic achievement is part of it, or data analysis. All right, the next area of the strategic plan is operational effectiveness. And under that, we have a Clear Creek Elementary School update. We have a video this month from our architect to play for you tonight. And all the board members have a booklet that details the progress of the project. We'll go ahead and play that video for everyone. It's getting more down into the inside of the building, so it's not as much the building coming out of the ground as we've seen in the past. This was videoed last Thursday. Conroe, that they're still working on some of the piping and whatnot under that.
Okay.
We are still on target to have the school completed at the end of June. So right now, what we're doing within this office is a lot of the interior finishes have already been selected, so we're starting to look at the furniture needs. Much of the furniture from Clear Creek Elementary will be moved there. The cafeteria tables are in great shape, and so those will be moved to the new school. But we will need media center furniture, and so we've been working on that with Ms. Burnett and her media specialist, Ms. Wells. And so we should have some of that stuff squared away. We still need the heritage wall, items for the heritage wall. So, are there any questions about?
The student desk, are they already brand new, or will they be
No,
new?
we will move. And we've got we found a couple of years ago, there was a big push for the students to be grouped at tables closer. COVID has completely changed all that, and our teachers are starting to go back to individual student desks. So we know that we have many desks that are out at Oakland, and some computer tables. So Ms. Burnett and I, we were supposed to go tomorrow, but we realized it's going to be pouring down rain, so we'll go on Wednesday and go to the school. We're going to do some measurements for furniture, and then we're going to go out to Oakland and just see where we need to fill in the gaps. But we've got a lot of perfectly good furniture that we've stored as the trends have changed within the classroom and instruction. We're not going to take stuff that's old and run down, but if there's, like the media center really did need to be completely refurnished, and then we're buying all new teacher desks and teacher chairs, because a lot of the teacher desks are just a hodgepodge, and even the front office desk at both Clear Creek Elementary and LJ Elementary is a hodgepodge of desks. I think Ms. Burnett's is built in with a granite countertop, so that can't even be moved if we wanted to. So, but we're trying not to overspend on furniture.
For all of them, nice.
Me too.
You know.
Me too. Yeah, me too. The next item is the school year, well, the rest of this school year, the 2021 board meeting dates. Each year in December, we begin looking at the calendar to schedule board meetings for the upcoming year, taking into consideration the traditional breaks, although the calendar has not been set for next school year. The traditional breaks, and there are certain conferences that take place at the same time every year. And so we put all the board meetings on the third week in the month, and then we start looking at where the conflicts are and back those dates, backwards or forwards, depending on what's going on that particular month. So you have in your packets what we believe would be the best weeks to hold both the work and regular sessions. So please review those, and any needed changes that there might be, we can make before Thursday and have a final copy for the meeting on Thursday. I think there was some discussion about the time for the meeting, a need to push it back. We had it at 6 o'clock, I know, my first couple of years, and then because of the length of the work day for employees, we pushed it back to 5:30. But subject to the wishes of the board, we can change that back to 6 or leave it at 5:30. Do 6. Okay. So we'll change that to 6. All right. If there is, if you take it home and you look at it and you realize that we might have missed something, let me know. You're only legally allowed to change 2 meetings once they've been published in the school year, so we try to get it right the first time we can. Okay, that brings us to our policies for our policies what they truly need to be. Many districts hire the school board association to come in and review their whole policy manual. And so they do it off-site, bring it back and say, here's your policies. But I don't think those districts have the ownership within the board, because that is, the board's role is to set policy. And then those policies help us to follow through with the day-to-day operations of the district. So all of our policies have been reviewed within the last 2.5 years. And so these policies for first reading are current policies, and once you read them tonight, then they're placed on our district website for public comment, and we also send that to GSBA to make sure that their lawyers review it, to ensure that it is in line with current legislation and laws within our state. So the policies for first reading will be placed on the website and sent to GSBA following this meeting, and then they'll have their second reading at our work session next month, and then be voted on at the regular session next month. And those policies are policy GDC, professional personnel recruitment, policy IDE 3, competitive interscholastic activities grades 6 through 12, and policy IDFC, community coaches. The policies for second reading have gone through that process. They've been posted on our district website since our meeting last month and submitted to GSBA legal counsel for review. We have not received any legal recommendations, but we've received a recommendation for change from our leadership team to policy EE, food services management, and that's dealing with employee charges for meals and students purchasing a la carte items. Those are in your packet to look at the suggested changes to policy EE, and then the remaining policies, there were no changes suggested. The remaining policies are policy EEE, wellness program, policy GANA, infectious diseases, policy JCDAE, weapons, and policy JGFGB, concussion management. No, we have, and this is something I have a hard time understanding, but we have staff that will charge up $150, $200 worth of $3.75 lunches and not pay for it. And it's, so, our school nutrition department, it's burdening the school nutrition department, their fund balance. Well, then it gets put on the principals to try to act as a collection agency to go to the teacher and say, hey, I need you to pay for your food. So, or not just teachers, staff in general. And so, and you can put money on your account and leave it there, and it just dwindles down throughout the year. So we want to limit the amount of money that a teacher can charge or staff member can charge. I understand if you've got a group of 20 kindergartners and you're going to the lunchroom, you might forget that you owe, but the next day you can bring the money. To me, there's no excuse for letting charges be that high. So we want to change it to where it's not placed, the burden is not placed on that cashier to say, I know. And in my previous district, we debated the option of basically withholding money from the staff member's check to pay it, but the lawyers didn't like that as much. So we would like to limit it where that cashier can say, I'm sorry, you're beyond $10, you can't charge today. And so it's policies done, and then, we're not counting for the charges. The student a la carte item, what was that change, Linda?
It used to be that they couldn't charge milk or juice if they had outstanding charges, and kids who bring their lunch may need to charge a milk or a juice, and so we didn't think that that was correct, so we let them charge. if they have out, right now, then nobody has charges because all the meals are free. But
Right.
we changed it because that would seem inappropriate and unfair.
Right. We had discussed that, I think, almost a month ago, so I didn't remember the one. Yeah.
So every student gets, even if they bring something home, they can still have it.
And we encourage them to take it as a snack. So yes, that's for the remainder of this school year. All of our student meals are free, breakfast and lunch. And if they bring their own lunch, we've encouraged our schools to have the students still go through the line so that if something on that lunch line interests them, then they can go ahead and get a lunch to go with whatever they brought from home. All right, so that brings us to fiscal accountability and purchasing policy expenditures and approvals for January 2021. You have a list of all of these. This is part of policy DJED, our purchasing policy, for informational purposes only. Every now and then, there's a purchase that was already board approved the month before, but I think everything here has been, it's just for informational purposes. Any question on any of this? Right. So that brings us to schools. Let me see what it is. This was Cloud 12 LLC. Cloud 12 is our classroom cameras. So you have to have the software that runs those cameras that our teachers it can be used for security purposes, but it can also be used to capture the teacher teaching a lesson and sent to students who are virtual students or students who are out in quarantine. But that's the renewal for every year. Key card, when we first went through and picked the doors to put the scan cards, remember we took off the locks and picked scan cards. There were places around every single school had a door or two that they later figured out needed a card. Like we put them on the main doors, but then there might have been where coming in from the playground, we thought everybody was coming in one door, they're coming in another. And so we tried to make sure that we were not overdoing it the first round. So we've gone back and put some in. So as we've looked at the new school, I even talked to Ms. Burnett. I said, I think you want to talk to maybe Laurie Pierce next door, who already has them, to make sure that we're marking all the doors that need the scan cards. So it's just going back and filling in gaps. All right. Next on the agenda is nutrition, and our director of school nutrition, Ms. Linda Waters, will give that nutrition report.
Take it off so you can hear it better. Good evening, and I want to thank you, especially Dr. Gauss, for keeping our schools open and not going virtual. For this reason, we are able to feed a large majority of our students, and we are able to maintain a positive cash flow and continue to build back toward our 3-month operating balance that I would like for us to be able to hold on to. That's a max that the state will let you have. We're about 2.5 months right now, positive cash flow. For the month of November, you can see that our revenues were $244,305.28, and our expenditures were $189,916.33. So we had a positive balance, positive revenues over expenditures of $54,388.95. And you can also see that we had quite an increase in our net worth, and that's due to increased food inventories, which we have a lot of food sitting around that we need to use. So tonight I provided y'all, as I tend to do whenever we have a new menu item that we're introducing to students, I provided you samples with apple cinnamon bites. We thought they were, I think they're really donut holes, but they kind of squished them down. So We had a student at the high school say, those are not donut holes. So we have named them bites. They were apple cinnamon bites. If you did not eat yours, they're best if you would pop it in the microwave for like 9 seconds, in the package, unopened, and they're really, really yummy. So they go, I guess, pretty good with the apple butter pellets. I mean, we've got an apple thing going on tonight, right?
Definitely.
Any questions? I do appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Okay, next, we have our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Trina Pimlin, to give our financial report for the month.
Hello. We have the financial report for November, and that is 5 months or 41.66% of the year complete. Our total revenues for the year-to-date period are $13,192,000, and that's 33.82% of our revenues. Our local tax revenues is $4,774,000, and we're at 25%, 25.68% at the end of November. Our expenditures for the year-to-date period are $16,318,000, and that's 39.25%. And currently, our expenditures over our revenues are $3,126,000, leaving us with a fund balance at the end of November of $14,250,000. So we're pretty much on track right now. We'll be doing some budget amendments later, but things change as the year goes on. But right now, at the end of November, we are on track. You'll see a lot more tax revenue coming in next month because what was collected in November is reported and remitted to the school system in December. Our 2015 eSWAS expenditures total $17,886,725, and for the month we spent $240,165. And $73,993 was our ongoing technology project, and $166,000 was phase 3 of our GHS renovation. Our 2020 eSPLOST expenditures to date is $9,563,000, and for the month we had $3,039,709, and all of that was on Clear Creek Elementary. So you're seeing all the progress on the videos, you're seeing the expenditures also. Our 2020 eSPLOST collections we collected to date, which is 2 months, $1,234,120.54. And for the month of November, we collected $545,172, and that is a decrease from the previous month of $143,000, but it's an increase from last year of $105,000.
Well, last month was
689,000. It was very large. So this is still a really good, revenue for the month. And speaking of our eSPLOST revenue, you have a copy of the eSPLOST audit that we had. And Georgia Code Section 20-2-491 requires all public school systems to obtain continuing performance audits for expenditures of sales tax and capital outlays if the tax generates $5 million or more annually. And this was our first year to have $5 million. And we had $5,144,000. But it was a little more than
Well,
that.
and it was a stressful audit because we had never had one like it, and they were asking us for stuff that, we had in mind.
Yeah, just getting in the habit of getting everything together.
That's the best person for it.
Yeah, but but a lot of it was facilities that I was battling.
A lot of it was me asking
Not
Dr.
having, Since I had taken over
Oh, okay.
facilities.
is to maintain, or to verify that the tax funds are expended efficiently and economically as to assure that the school district receives maximum benefit for the dollars collected. And to make sure that, we're spending the money on the projects approved by the referendum. So, if you look on page 4, you can see the audit scope. Maude and Jenkins is who we engaged to do our audit. They conducted it and focused on the school district's compliance with state and local laws, mandates, and the receipt of expenditures, sales tax proceeds for allowable SPLOST educational purposes. They audited, we had total expenditures for the year period that they were looking at, and this was our 2015 is the one they were monitoring. We had not collected any for 2020 until October, so this is FY20. So we spent $901,000, or 19% of the total disbursements during that period is what we had spent. And you can look below, it tells all the audit objectives. And then finally, it gives a detailed report that the audit results are on page 6. And based on the results of the audit, they did conclude that we were operating in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations, the referendum approved by the county citizens, and industry best practices. So the audit goes into more detail by objectives, so you can read them on your own. There's like 9 or 10 of those, and it tells the details of what they look for in every audit and how we actually maintain the records or prepare things. So you can read that in your spare time.
I want to congratulate you and your staff and Dr. Downs. That couldn't have been easy.
It wasn't easy. Especially in the middle of everything else.
And you've got the controls there.
Yes.
They've gone through, looked at the inspections and reviews and all those things to back up what we spent. So it gives us as board members a lot of confidence, as always, in our finances, and it should also our taxpayers.
In admiration, with those three.
Yes. I think I talked to both of y'all. One of the things that was very difficult when we had a change of personnel, as Dr. Downs mentioned. We do have controls in place, but some of those were on the front end, so those, we had to go back and really do some digging to find things. The back end was, it was really good, so, they had a very good opinion on us. So, thank you.
Thank you as
And
always.
we know exactly what the big.
We
When
hope.
we go $100 over the 5 million next year. Over for 100,000. Okay, that brings us to my announcements and comments. One thing, I just wanted to update you guys on our COVID numbers in case you haven't looked at our website. As of today, our schools were reporting 18 students absent with current COVID positive status, and then we have a total of 5 staff members throughout the entire district that are positive at this point. So while we saw that spike as soon as we came back from Christmas break, it seems to be leveling off. I know that they said at the meeting I was at yesterday that as a state it started to turn down, but it seems a little too early to even say that, as a state. But these are our actual numbers for today. The issue is that we have 251 students quarantined, meaning that they are missing that face-to-face instruction in the classroom. And so, that's a challenge for our teaching staff. 251 are quarantined. So we only have 18 students that are positive at this time, but we have 251. And you can have my sheet if you. But when we do the numbers, we add those numbers up, and then post it rather than posting it for a school. When you only have 5 people, as soon as you post it, it's one person at a school. Every parent thinks that their child's teacher is the one. So we reported generally as a district, but that sheet has the numbers for school. The other thing is on Thursday night, our Thursday board meetings are extremely short usually because we go through all of the business on Monday night, and then Thursday is more voting, and so they're usually under a half hour. Because of that, our Touchdown Club has requested that they be able to do a meet and greet for our new football coach here, and so they're gonna provide some refreshments and invite, if the media wants to have a brief interview, if you've not already, ask our football coach that I'm gonna recommend to the board for approval on Thursday night, if you wanna ask him some questions. So I wanted to put that out there so people that normally don't attend on Thursdays might wanna stop by. Okay, the next item, public participation, as the final agenda item at board work sessions, is the intent of the board to allow input solely on agenda items from those in attendance. All presentations are to be brief and are intended for the board to hear comments or concerns without taking action. All other time limits and topic restrictions remain in effect. Is there anyone here for public participation? All right. I recommend a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel and real estate.
We have a motion.
I got one.
All four?
I should have
All
put.
four. All in four.
Yes, we're gonna take a picture real quick. Before I go upstairs. Yeah,